Okay, so today we're continuing on inequalities, one-step inequalities, but today is on multiplication and division. Okay, we've already started. Last block day, right? We did addition, subtraction. We got into inequalities. We talked about it, and right, everything up to this point, when you're solving inequalities or equations, you're pretty much doing it almost the same way. All right, it's just the sign that is different, has different meaning, of course, and of course now we're starting to graph, right? But today's going to be a little different. We're going to talk about that. So for vocab, with green on the left, notes on the right, here's our very first word or phrase: the multiplication property of inequality. Everyone?
Multiplication property of inequality.
All right, so this looks familiar. It probably should, right? Because when we were talking about equations, we had addition property of equality, subtraction property of equality, multiplication property of equality, right? So we had all of that, and then we got to last Thursdays, right? We had addition property of inequality, subtraction property of inequality. All of those almost said the exact same thing. And let me sum it up for you if you guys can't remember. It's pretty much whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. That's the whole point of those. However, today we finally get to the exception. All right. So when we read this, make sure you're really looking at it because it is a little different than all of those other ones I just said. All right. So here we go. Here's what your book says, and it's written out pretty well. It says, when you multiply each side of an inequality by a negative number, the inequality symbol must be reversed for the inequality to remain true. So if you're dealing with inequalities and you're dealing with multiplying both sides by a negative number on an inequality, it's saying you have to reverse the sign. So for example, we'll write this, and I'd rather you guys write it with me. Okay? If we have a problem like, in your little box there, x divided by negative 3 is greater than 8, it's saying if you multiply this side by a negative number and this side by a negative number, yes, those cancel out. We still end up with x. We still end up with 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. However, it's saying you have to reverse the inequality sign. Oops. I said it. Oh, yeah, I did it right. Sorry. I'm sitting here looking there, but I did it. So it went from greater than to less than. About ready to get the whiteout out. I didn't need to. So, inequality, both sides multiplying by a negative number, that inequality is reversed. Okay? So we're going to go from there. Let's go to our next one. The division property of inequality. Everyone? All right. So this is almost the exact same type of idea. It says when you divide each side of an inequality by a negative number, the inequality symbol must be reversed for the inequality to remain true. All right, so we'll write this one down together. I'll just rewrite it here. If we have a problem like negative 2x is less than negative 6, right? And you're then dividing both sides by a negative 2. To solve it, you would get x, negative 6 divided by negative 2 is 3, but it's no longer x is less than 3, it's x is greater than 3. Again, reversing the inequality sign. All right, so here's what I'm going to have you guys do. Go ahead and just go straight to your worksheet. Go straight to your worksheet. Go ahead and let's take a look at, let's start with problem number 2. Make sure your name, date, and period's up at the top. Name, date, and period's up at the top. All right, so the directions say, solve the following, show all work, graph each on the number line provided. Now, first of all, guys, the other day, right, we had a number of things, had a worksheet just like this. And remember the rule I said, because you had you have problems on the book page as well. I said only show your work on one problem of each row, and then you can just copy down the solutions, change in the sign, and I was okay with that. Today is different. I do want you to show all of your work on every problem, okay? For a couple of different reasons. First of all, your book page, by the way, don't forget you do have a few problems on a book page, okay? But your book page, there's only what, 4 problems, 5 problems, okay? Not very many, okay? The other thing is that showing your work is the main part of today's practice, all right? Plus, you're going to have some time in class, more time today than the other day to work on this, so you can show your work on all of them, okay? So make sure you remember that. All right, here's what I want you to do. For right now, go ahead and take your pencil, place it down. I just want you to watch this first one. I'll give you guys 30 seconds to copy it down here in a second. So here's what we have. We have 3n is greater than negative 15. So, obviously, here's our n, okay? It's on that left side. It's being multiplied with 3, so I'm going to do the opposite. Divide by 3, right? Only one inverse there, not negative 3, just a 3. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. And then when these cancel out, I end up with n here. Right here, it's 15 divided by 3, which is 5. Negative divided by a positive is a negative. And I turn around, and I bring down my inequality sign. Now, at this point, some of us may be saying, whoa, 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 Mr. Wilkins, you just said we need to reverse the inequality sign, flip the inequality sign. You're right, I did say that. However, you have to divide by a negative number. Whoa, whoa, Mr. Wilkins, wait. There's a negative 15. Negative 15 divided by 3. No. It's when you divide both sides by a negative number. That's the number they're talking about. This is a positive integer. That's why I did not flip the sign. But wait, you're saying, but look at, the answer is negative 5. You're right, it doesn't matter if it's here or here. What matters are these two numbers. We only reverse the sign when we multiply and divide both sides by a negative number. Okay, that's the number we're looking for. Okay, so be careful on that. All right, we're going to do another one here in a second, and then we'll write the steps. What I want you to do right now, spend 30 seconds, copy that down on your homework. Go. Bless you. Okay, anyone still need more time copying that down? Okay. All right, here we go. Let's go to another problem. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 15. Number 15, let's check that out. All right, we have negative 6n is less than or equal to negative 18. All right, so we're going to write the steps on this one. Here we go. Step 1, find out where your variable is, box it in. So we have our n's right here. It's on the left side of our inequality. Step 2. Okay, remember we're going to do the inverse at this point. All right, the opposite operation. In this case, so remember it's only 1. So n is being multiplied with -6, so we switch the multiplication to division of -6, not +6, -6. Multiplication to division, that's our inverse. Step 3, whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. So we divide this side by -6. Step 4 is we're going to go ahead and finish solving the problem. So here's what we've got. -6 divided by -6, right, is a 1. That's why they cancel out. So we end up with just an n. 18 divided by 6 is 3. A negative divided by a negative is a +3. Here comes a special step, a little reminder. We'll call it step star. Ladies and gentlemen, we just divided both sides by a negative number. That means that this inequality sign, this less than or equal to, becomes a greater than or equal to sign. Okay, now we do have step 5, and we do have to graph this. Okay. By the way, I did not graph number 2, so when you do your homework, don't forget to finish off number 2. Okay. The main focus was the inequality part. Okay. When we graph this, n is greater than or equal to 3. So I find my 3. It's a positive, right, between 0 and 5. There is part of an equal sign here. So I'm going to go ahead and put a dot in the right spot when it comes to an equal sign. However, we still need to put an arrow. Remember, an arrow, you always ask yourself, is the n larger or smaller? And remember, you can always look at the alligator mouth and see if it's eating the variable, because that, remember, always eats the larger number. So in this case, we're graphing the n. It's being eaten. So the n is larger than 3. So I graph and plot my arrow, I should say, to the larger number. Since n is larger than 3, I point to the larger numbers, which is always to the right. Okay, questions?
On number 2, you didn't flip the sign.
Okay, so that actually leads me to my next part, right? Okay, what's the difference between number 2 and number 15? Okay. Everyone sees the difference, right? That is the difference. And that's why I wanted to do both of those with you. This one, we have a positive divided by a positive number. That's why we did not flip the sign. We reversed the inequality. This one, we're dividing by negatives on both sides. That's why we did reverse the sign or flip the sign. Okay. Any other questions? All right, here's one I want you guys to try. Problem 16. Problem 16. Try that one out on your own. Go. Make sure you graph it as well. 16. All right, anyone still working on number 16? Okay, checking with you in about 30 seconds. Those of you that have 16 done, you can go ahead and work on some of your other problems there on your homework. All right. Anyone still working on it? Okay, just a few more seconds, and then we're going to share. Okay, 30 seconds. Go ahead and turn to your neighbor and share. Go.
I got 8 is greater than 12. So it was division, so I switched to multiplication. I multiplied both sides by -3. They were both multiplied by -3, so I switched the sign to greater than. And then I got 4 times -4 times -3 equals 12. So I got 8 is greater than 12. Sure.
Okay, so the first person I choose, whichever seat is just worry about giving me just the solution, not about the graph yet. All right, we'll talk about the graph in a bit. Let's worry about one thing at a time. So just the solution. All right, seat 15. Okay, make sure please that you raise your hand next time when I ask if anyone needs more time, because I did not see your hand. All right, seat 4. Okay, so you had A, and then alligator mouth eating the A or the other number? Okay, so greater than. All right, so that would mean greater than. And then what was your integer?
12.
Positive 12. So A is greater than 12.
A is greater than 12.
All right, agree, disagree. What do you guys think? All right. A lot of agreements, few disagreements out there. All right, anyone else want to share their answer? John. All right, well, let's check it out. So, A, box it in. It's being divided by -3, right? So we multiply by -3. There's our inverse. Whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. All that part's exactly the same as before. These cancel. We end up with A. We have 4 times 3 is 12. It's a negative times a negative, which is a positive. And ladies and gentlemen, step star, right? That reminder, take a look at what's going on both sides. We are multiplying by -3. Remember, it's multiplication and division today. And the rules are the same. If you multiply or divide by a negative number on both sides, we flip the sign. So it goes from a less than sign to a greater than sign. All right? Questions? All right, now let's check out the graph. All right, I'm going to choose someone and go ahead and tell me what you have on your graph. All right, so that person's not here today. All right, seat 23. Okay. To the right, like that. All right, agree, disagree with that. Oh, all right. So everyone's kind of agreeing, so I'm thinking you might not have anything to be ashamed about. Let's check this out. Here we go. So A, right, is what we're graphing. There is no equal sign, right? So meaning there's no dot, meaning it's a circle. So circle looks good. A, remember, is being eaten, which tells me that A is larger. So if I take a look I take my arrow, point to the larger numbers, which is always to the right, and so that would be correct. Nicely done. All right, guys, questions on those? Especially on the graphing part. I know a lot of you guys seem to be doing much better with graphing than a lot of my other classes, but I know that's graphing's a struggle, especially which direction the arrow goes. Okay, any questions? Well, let's ask ourselves. I'm going to write an equal sign. Let's flip it. What does it look like? No, it just flipped. No. Guys, remember this right here, you'll see equal sign, you'll see equations in here. But remember these, multiplication property of an inequality. That's not an inequality, that's an equation. So they throw them in here for you, so you have to be aware of that. But no, you don't have to worry about flipping, it's still just an equation. Okay. Any other questions? All right, solving inequalities, multiplying and dividing.